Okay, and I'm back, and since I'm gonna move you guys down, you won't be able to necessarily see me, and I need to grab one thing. So I'm gonna bring you guys with me for 1 second, and that's, I need to find out where my wide mouth funnel went. And I'm looking for it. Now, do you need a wide mouth funnel? Yes and no. I mean, it's great to have one, especially when you're pouring hot liquids in. And unfortunately, I don't know where mine is at the moment. So I'm not going to worry about that. Now, since I'm doing the canned method, once you bring your sterile jars out of the canner, you need to get it back up to the boil. So what now the next step is we're going to start filling our jars. Now I said the thinner slices that we did here, I'm going to do in the pints. And I'm going to turn you guys kind of around. The pints are these two small ones in the front, and then all 6 of my quart jars are right back there. Oh, and I found my funnel. So I'm just going to take my funnel. And to make things easy, you can definitely use a spoon for this. And we're going to see how this goes. I'm just going to use a spoon like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start getting my jars ready for the pickle mix. And you want to make sure that they're packed pretty tightly in there because you don't want any air bubbles. And I did tell you when I did the peach jam series, I had left a lot of room in the jars and could have put a lot more stuff in there. Actually, I'm going to take that out. Actually, I'm going to do this by hand. I'm just going to lightly pack my jars. And always, if you're going to use your hands, always make sure that your hands are really, really, really clean. Now, I don't know if you can see all of this room over there. That's going to give me an air bubble. So I'm just going to take my fingers and I'm going to pack. And you want to leave enough room at the top. You want to leave about 2 inches of room at the top. So put a couple more pickles in. You just want to see all this room. I'm going to kind of point to it. It's kind of hard to see because there's a design right here. But there is a lot of room for air to get down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use a spoon. And hopefully, I just dropped the pickle on the ground. Hopefully I can just pack these. We're going to add a little bit more. Now what happens if you drop one of these on the floor? Don't worry about it. Just rinse it with cold water and a little bit of soap and make sure to dry it. Because like I said, those things do rust. Or can rust. We'll have to hope that's... I'm actually going to layer the pickles on the bottom. Now when you pour the liquid in, you want to make sure that the liquid fills all of the vacancies in the jar. And I have a little bit of room on that side. So, it goes down. You just want to make sure you pack these pretty good. Now, you're going to, if you're doing the cooked method, which I'm going to do, you're not going to want to open these right away. You're going to want at least a week for them to sit. And the longer they sit, the better they're going to taste. And since I have enough for one more pint, grab another one with a lid. And like I said, my jars, I already sterilized the pint size, so I'm not worried about them not being sterilized. Move you guys down. And I'm just gonna, I should have enough stuff to do this. Should have enough pickles, so this will make 3 pints. And this will also determine if you do the cooked method versus the quick eat method. This will tell you if you have enough or how much of the recipe you're going to actually have to make. And you know how I said I got to step you on the hour? Well, that's the clock that's about to play, so I'll be right back. Okay, that was an easy... Excuse me, that was relatively a faster play. Okay, so now I'm getting into the quart-sized jars. And you're going to do the same thing that you did for the pints, if you're making pints. And you might be asking or thinking, do you have to do big quart jars like this? Well, no. If you have pint jars, you can definitely use pints. Just keep in mind that you're going to use a lot more pints. Pint jars. And I used most of my pint jars when I did the jam series. So most of my pints are already used for that. So I have a lot more quart than I do pints. And that's the fun thing about canning is you don't have to do them in big jars. If you have space in your pantries and you want to do little jars, you certainly can. What I like to do sometimes, especially if you have a lot of room on the bottom, and this one has quite a bit of room, is shake the jar just a little bit. There's a lot of room. And hopefully you can... Trying to look for smaller pickles. So that's 2 quarts. So looking. definitely going to have to almost triple this recipe from what I'm seeing. And I'm going to see if I have enough pickles to fill this. If I don't, I'm going to have to do another pint jar, which I'm not sure I have any more pints. I might get lucky. I might be able to do, although this is going to be close. That's going to be close. So this will double the recipe. This will triple it. So now that I know how much I have, I'm going to actually have to triple the recipe. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to do this times 3. So I'm going to get my stuff ready. I'll be right back. I need to get the vinegar and we'll go from there. So I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm back, and I definitely am glad we went with the large one. I'm just measuring out my vinegar. And since I have so much, I'm going to need a total of 7.5 cups of vinegar. So that was 4 cups. And then add 3.5 cups. That makes your 7 cups of vinegar. And I'm using white distilled vinegar. This is the white distilled vinegar. And like I said, on the thing, I'm going to put you in, and this is a little bit of a dirty bottle, so I don't want to get it down. But you should be able to see on the side where it says diluted with the acid. And it's really small to see. It's actually right in here. But it says 5%. And that's what you want for your pickling spices. Before I measure out any of the sugar, I need to wash my hands because I also need to wash the counter a little bit because that bottle has been on the floor, and of course, you know, the dogs get to it. So, now since we times this times 4, we need 1 cup of the pickling spices. But before we do that, we're going to need to measure out our sugar. And I'm going to take you guys with me. And I believe our sugar is the same as the vinegar. So when you put the 7.5 cups of vinegar in, you also need 7.5 cups of sugar. So I'm going to go grab my sugar, measure that out. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I just measured out the half of sugar. And do you need to does it need to be exact? No, you don't need to measure as if you're doing for cookies. But what you want to do is you want to get it as evenly to the top. So that's 2. Four. Five. Well, that was 5 cups, so I still need to add 2 more cups. Because like I said, the half cup is already spoon. You might be wondering where my husband's at. Well, he's downstairs. Yes, he normally does help me in the kitchen, but for him, if he goes to wash the dishes while I'm trying to do this, it won't work. So he'll help me out a little bit later. Okay, so that's 6, and I have 1 more cup to do. And that's 7. Okay, so we have our 7.5 cups of sugar in there. If you have a little sugar, you can add a little bit more sugar to that. Now, I said, and I'm going to put you guys down, I'm using actually, I don't know if we talked about this, but this is the new Tupperware collection that I got from Tupperware. It's the Marvelous Mrs. Manners on HBO, or not HBO, Hulu or Netflix, one of those. It's a TV series set in the 1950s, and that's one of the bowls from that era. Only it's new. It was produced today. I do have some of my grandmother's old Tupperware, and Tupperware has been around for a long time, and I think there is a video somewhere if I posted it. If not, I'll have to go back and see if I can find it. Oh good, this has all of the pickling spices, and I'm gonna kind of show you guys what it looks like. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it makes it much easier when you buy the Bell versus trying to do that. And I need 1 whole cup of this. And this you do kind of want to measure. It's a little bit harder, trickier, because you have your whole corns in, and then I'll kind of show you what that looks like. So this you want to be a little bit more mindful for. Now, what I'm going to do is I may actually, as I christen my dogs with vinegar. Sorry guys, I know you are going to smell like vinegar. I'm going to get my husband up for a second and see if he can clear out the kitchen for me. And I need to move 1 pot over, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. We haven't started the solution yet for the pickles, but if you go on bellmasonjars.com, and that's who usually does the cans, and I'm just trying to show you. These, the Bell Mason jars have their own website, and on the back, it actually tells you the different altitude pressures. So I'm going to bring you in. These are the altitude pressures, but if you're doing what I'm doing and you're going to can them, the pressure up to 1,000 feet is 15 minutes. If you're 1,001 feet to 3,000 feet, you're going to add you're going to increase the time by 5 minutes. If you're over 3,000 feet to 6,000 feet, you're going to add 10 minutes. And 15 minutes for 6,000 to 8,000 feet. And then 20 minutes for 8,000 to 10,000 feet. Now, unfortunately, nobody that's watching my videos is over 10,000 feet. Because once you start going over 10,000 feet, oxygen becomes the big problem. So, yes, you could live in the Rocky Mountains and be up into the mountain range. While those mountains do get quite tall, nobody lives above the altitude of 10,000 feet. So it's 20 extra minutes in addition to the 15 minutes if you live the higher up you go. So always, like I said, consult the manufacturer. And the Ball is usually bellmasonjars.com is what I go on. And they have some great recipes. They also have recipes sometimes on the back of the boxes when you buy your jars. Like this one will tell you the acid bath. Check the seal. This one actually does. Oh yeah, this one has, I can't read it. It has the recipe jar, and let me see what this recipe is. Oh, for okra, for pickled okra. So there are recipes on there that you might want to save as you're collecting your jars. Now, I keep the boxes that the jars are in because it's very easy to put the jars after they're used back in here. And then when you go for the next season and you go to use them, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to re-sterilize them. You're going to buy new lids. You're going to use the same bands, and that way they all are kept together. So that's a great thing to do. So let's get started with the ingredients that we are doing. I've got my vinegar simmering on the stove. I gotta move it a little bit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pour in the sugar, and we're gonna dissolve the sugar in this vinegar solution. And you might be saying, well, that's a lot of sugar. Well, for bread and butter pickles, and because you're using a vinegar solution, you're definitely going to want that amount of sugar. So, and then we're also going to add our pickling spices to this. And because I'm just going to add a little bit more pickling spice because I actually have a little bit more of the pint jars. I have one extra pint jar. So you're just going to want to make sure that your sugar is dissolved. You're going to stir this. You're going to bring it up to a boil, and when it boils, you actually do want to keep this boiling if you can. Unfortunately, you can see how crowded, and hopefully I'll turn you guys around. The canner is right here, and this is right here, and I don't have room right this region. So I'll have to pull this off and be fairly quick when it comes to ladling this into the jars. You just want to bring this up to a boil. And once it comes up to the boil, then you're ready to go ahead and fill your jars. Now you are going to want to work kind of quickly for this. And you're going to want to give about an inch, no, not an inch, about a half an inch space between the tops. So you're not going to fill this all the way up to the top. You're going to fill it to probably just under the ring. So you allow a little bit of room. Oh, okay. Sorry, my husband's putting a cookie sheet in. Now this is where the funnels come in great, but unfortunately, because we're so packed with pickles, I might have to do a little bit of movement. And you are definitely going to want to use the ladle for this. You're not going to want to use the spoon. So, and it helps if you have a soup ladle for this. So, it's going to take a couple of minutes because of the amount of vinegar and sugar solution to come up to a boil. So I'm going to stop the video. I'll be right back once that comes up, and then we'll fill these jars, and then I will show you what you need to do next.